three.
Welcome to the Theater Podcast, intimate personal conversations with theater's biggest talents. I'm your host, Alan Seals. Our guest today has appeared on Broadway in Evita, Teddy and Alice, Sunday in the Park with George, Betty, Anything Goes, Triumph of Love, 2004's Fiddler on the Roof, Memphis, and even as Cinderella. Was the title character in the first national tour of the Drowsy Chaperone. She's won an Obie. She's been Tony nominated for her role in Urinetown. I'm trying to figure, I'm like, it's too long and I'm trying to cut shit in my head.
I know.
You've done too many things.
I know.
You've done way too many things.
I'm getting ready to do my 15th Broadway show.
Nancy Opel.
Hi.
Hi. I think that's our intro.
Hi, sweetie. Hi, sweetie. It's the best you can do. Come on. It's late.
Listen, there's a lot of words. You've got a huge bio. How are you doing?
I'm great. Doing way better than you right now. Because I remember what I did. Well, mostly anyway.
You were telling me you don't remember the other day.
Well, you know what? I don't remember the other day, but I do remember a lot of stupid stuff that I've done.
Okay. Well, I hope you remember the answer to my first question.
Okay.
I want to start at the very origin of Nancy. What is Nancy? Where did you grow up? What is your background?
Kansas City. Yeah, I grew up in Kansas City. So, and also I grew up pre-internet, so I knew absolutely nothing, which in a way I think is kind of freeing and makes you bold, because you really don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. And I just wanted to be a teacher, really, when I was little. I wanted to teach school. And I kind of think maybe it was because the teacher stood in front of the class and everybody had to be quiet while she talked. I don't know. But I think it wasn't really till high school that I kind of started doing plays. But I still didn't think of it like it was going to be my career.
What did you want to teach?
Probably grade school somewhere, because I loved all of my grade school teachers.
But you wanted to be up on the school mom stage.
Yeah. You know what? As I say, like we grow as we get older, and I kind of went, is it possible that I could be an actor for a living? I mean, it really, truly didn't even occur to me. I thought there were movie stars, and that was it. I didn't think of anything else. And so it was really not until high school that I sort of thought, you know what, maybe I can kind of like pursue this professionally. I don't know. And maybe I was probably junior in high school when I thought, do I need to go to like drama school or something? I mean, I was kind of slow, shall we say, because, kids now, I mean, you can watch a YouTube of any of your favorite, musical theater people or whatever. I was still stuck with vinyl and listening to the records and like going, I went to be in a Stephen Sondheim show. You listen to your little vinyl records, before you go to sleep.
Well, how did you know about musical theater? Was your family involved or your friends or anything?
No, my dad had a welding business. So we weren't exactly in the arts.
Right.
No, not exactly in the arts, but I sort of fell in with the theater crowd in high school. Everybody's got a theater crowd, and I did chorus, I love to sing. So I did chorus and sang in the choir every year. Started doing shows my sophomore year because I didn't make the junior varsity cheerleading squad. And I thought, I'll audition for the play. So that's kind of the start of it. And,
do you remember what the first play was?
Yes, I do. And I can't actually believe I'm telling you this. It was a play called The Great Sebastians.
What was that about?
It was about these people, like a husband and wife team that pretended to be mentalists. Like you would say, he would like be somewhere and he would say, tell me quickly, and she'd say key, because they had like words that they would.
So they were con artists.
Yes.
Yeah, more or less.
Yes, it was a play about con artists.
Wonderful.
And I believe there was some sort of subplot that had to do with politics, but I don't remember that very well.
All right. So then
I remember an itchy blue net dress. That's what I remember best.
Wonderful. And then got into Juilliard.
Yeah.
How did that process go?
Well, I have to really be honest when I say I made no plans for my career. Other people told me what to do. My friend, who is a great actor here in town, who I don't see enough of. His name is Henry Stram. And Henry and I went to high school together. And he would just say stuff like, you really should audition for the play. You really should audition for the musical. You really should audition for Juilliard. He was one of those people. There was just like, he knew what was going on. And he would just say, you should go do this thing. And I would go, okay. And I would go try to do the thing. And luckily for me, it worked out. So that's how, I didn't even know about Juilliard until he told me about it.
What was your audition? What did you do?
I did a piece from, I think it was called The Storm by Ostrovsky. And the other thing was, can't remember the name of it. It was by Farquhar, and it was a restoration comedy thing.
So you were saying originally that kids back in the day didn't have the YouTubes in the internet.
There was nothing to look at. So you had to go to the library or something to find something.
So then you've been performing now for many decades. A wonderful career so far. What are some of the most significant changes that you've seen shift in the industry?
Let's see. Let's start at optimistic, and then we'll move right into pessimism, shall we? Okay. Well, when I first started, those were the days where everyone was kind of more naive, really. I remember going to an audition for Evita, which was my first Broadway show, and I don't even know. It was so crazy. It's just like, I don't even know how I got on this stage, because they used to do auditions on the stages of theaters back then. And I was on the stage of the Schubert Theater with the chorus line mirrors behind me, the white line there. And I'm standing on it going, holy smokes. It was just like, that in and of itself was like, I've made it. Do you know?
You're auditioning on the stage.
Yeah, I'm auditioning on the stage of a Broadway show. And I remember going, and it's like, it was almost time for me to sing. And I went over to the side, and we were kind of in a little office over on the side of the Schubert Theater. And there were some people sitting in there. And Mandy Patinkin walked in, and he goes, hey, I'm looking for Hal Prince. And he looked at someone who was an assistant of an assistant. He goes, hey, are you Hal Prince? And we were all like, because we're going like, you think he's Hal Prince? he's like 23. Anyway, it was pretty cute. But like I said, it was just kind of like a different thing. People who were singers did the singing track, and people who were dancers did the dancing track, and sort of never the twain shall meet. You had a singing chorus and a dancing chorus, because there were lots of people in shows back then. That's a major thing that's changed. There are half the amount of people in shows now, and they were supposed to be big shows. You look and you say, wow, there's 26 people on that stage. And my first show had 45.
Wow.
It's a huge difference. The first show I was in, top ticket was $35.
Wow. And
Cats, when it opened, went up to 50, and we all just about dropped dead. And we said, who's going to pay that?
Lots of people did.
Right. So it's stuff like that. There were big changes in that way. And also there were the people who were producing shows. They were the gentleman producers back in the day. Do you know what I mean? They were like the Schuberts. It was like two guys, Those kind of people sort of knew the people in their shows. Do you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like Jerry Schoenfeld. Jerry Schoenfeld would stop by the theater. He wasn't a producer on Evita, but he was on Sunday in the Park with George, which was my next show. And so he would like come in, every so often, and come and visit and say, how are you doing? I'm responsible for the fact that there is a shower in the Booth Theater. I mean, I don't know if it's still there, but they put one in because we were doing a musical and it was never used as a musical house before. And I had to go like, hey, I'm the deputy. We need to put a shower in. And they totally did. But those were the gentlemen producers who knew the people in the shows and actually seemed to care about the people in the shows. And I think that's a major change, that because of how much money it costs to produce a show, there are just so many producers now. I mean, you see them, like giant gangs of producers, get up on stages to accept Tony Awards because that's just the way it is now.
Right.
And so I think that you kind of lose that sort of connection of like, I know you're not really like my friend necessarily, but we are compatriots and we care about the same things. And you don't feel you're so bottom lined as sometimes you feel these days,
Right. And is that still on the optimistic end of the scale?
No, no, I would say that's the part of it that is difficult. That's the part of it that if I were just starting out, I think I might find that a little sad. Of course, if you don't know any better, then maybe it doesn't make that much difference.
Right.
Maybe, ignorance is bliss.
Right.
But I notice it, there are always lead producers on things and you feel like you know them, but it's just everything is really so much more about money than it felt like back then. For example, going back to Sunday in the Park with George, I think they knew that they would never really make any money on that show, but they did it for the art. And I think that's another thing that's sort of changed. I don't know how many Broadway shows get produced because they go, oh my gosh, this is going to be an artistic triumph and we'll probably never make a dime. I just don't think that's in the equation anymore.
Well, you can't make a living if you're constantly losing money, I guess.
Well, no, you can't.
So then throughout all of that, what's remained, or I guess maybe what has even evolved that you love still about the scene?
Okay, what has evolved is how freaking talented people are now. Not that people weren't talented when I started, but now because there's only 25 people in a show, guess who's dancing and singing? One person is doing the dancing and the singing, and they're doing it darned well too. That's the thing. I mean, I think the training has, because of that, it has evolved the training to a place where we never were. It was rare to see someone who was a really amazing dancer and an amazing singer. And nowadays, everybody in a show is.
You have to be.
Everybody.
And know 4 different tracks.
Everybody. I mean, they're just so good. They're just so good. I did Memphis for like a year and a half, and I replaced Cass Morgan. And when I first went to see the show, I went, oh, this is amazing. They're so good. And then when I went back and really started to study the show, because I had to watch it to learn it, I went, these people are killers, because they were not just like sort of good musical theater dancers. They were amazing. They were just amazing. There was this one guy, like Darius Barnes, would just like do an aerial. And it was just like this. Boom, do an aerial, land, and then like plant and do like 8 pirouettes. And it was just like, he would just plant and he would just get slower and slower and slower and slower and slower and slower. Stop for the next phrase. And you just watch that and you go, and I would watch it every night. I'd go to the side to watch those guys do their tricks that basically no one looked at because they were in the back. I mean, there were people who could see it, but they did it for fun. And that's the stuff that I think, look at the people that are sort of being created by this climate. And that's the amazing thing.
Do you think any of that has to do with the current rise of social media and how, I guess, everybody seems to be competing with each other online. And I think at a young age before the professional, I guess I get your thoughts on this, before the professional side kicks in, do you think they're always trying to one-up each other on an amateur level that kicks them into a professional level a little bit deeper?
I think it is more about what you have to be marketable. And that's more about what the market requires than what social media requires. I think that social media kind of goes along with the whole deal because it's just that everybody does it. And you go like, oh, well, so-and-so has, 30,000 followers. Maybe I should have 30,000 followers too. But that's a whole other sort of set of skills that people are working on. They're becoming their own press agents, because they can now, because they can.
Mm-hmm.
And they have platforms for it, so they can be their own press agents. But it's kind of like a semi full-time job too. And I really am not certain that there's a definite sort of correlation. I think the only way you would say there might be a correlation is insofar as what casting directors are looking for. Now, that's a different thing because casting people may say, hey, here's girl A, here's girl B. They're both awesome. They've both done 3 Broadway shows and a tour. This girl has 50,000 Instagram followers. This girl has 3,000.
Yep.
This girl A is going to get it.
Really? You think that has an influence?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. Now, when you get to be my age, we old crones, if we've lasted this long, they don't care about that, I don't think. I really don't think. I mean, it's just like I'm still here. You just like go, I'm still alive. Yeah, I'm still in show business. And, you just do what you do because I've done it a long time, like you said. Right. But young people, I actually think if all things are equal, they will probably go with the person who's got following on social media.
Wow. Yeah, it didn't even occur to me.
Well, it should, because I actually think it's a big deal. And in fact, I think it's even a bigger deal in TV and film.
Yeah, that I can see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, bringing it back to you.
Yeah, okay.
Now you do a lot of coaching.
Yeah.
You can tell me about that?
Sure. I love to coach. And mostly what I end up doing really is coaching people for auditions. So if someone gets some music and a few scenes to read for an audition, it would behoove them to come and speak to me about it. Because a lot of people are getting a little more savvy about it, but a lot of people only spend, they'll work and work and work on notes. They'll work and work and work, and they'll go like, I want to make sure that note is just perfect, but then they kind of like don't pay too much attention to their lines, to the sides, which I think is a mistake because I actually think that's kind of the secret weapon.
Oh yeah, if you can act your way.
Well, it's really important, and a lot of people kind of don't spend the time they need to spend. They sort of think the muse is going to come down and hit them on the head when they walk in, and they're going to just get some kind of inspiration, in the moment, and they'll be able to come up with something. And I feel like what I do well is help someone create a roadmap through the scenes. So you're sort of like hitting landmarks as you go. So you hit your beats, you go like, boom, 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 boom. I'm done. And I did it. I got where I needed to go. Because you can't just start and take a deep breath and go, let's hope for the best. It just doesn't work out very well. So I think that's probably what I do best. And also I encourage people to choose boldly what they're going to do. Because an awful lot of folks say, oh, but if I make a really bold choice, if it's wrong, then, they're not going to think I'm right for the part and whatever. I said, listen, here's the problem. In the first 5 seconds, you walk in that room. If you're wrong for it, they know already. It doesn't matter what you say. Mm-hmm. They're going to know if you're wrong for it. Just how right can you be? Do you know? Right. I mean, how right can you be? And you can't worry about you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you're too old. Forget it. If you got in the room, you got to do what you got to do. And you're trying to be sort of neutral does not help you. Neutral means it neutralizes their interest in you. They're not going to care.
Mm-hmm.
So I always equate it with like going into an all white room with a white bucket of paint and a brush and very neatly repainting the room white. You go like, wow, you get neatness points. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Because that's what a lot of people do. They do kind of a really, really competent routine and leave the room. Whereas I honestly think what people are looking for who are casting, they want a splash. Even if you kind of screw up some parts, just like I want to see like real crazy you humanity sort of out there so we can really see what you can do. And if it's not perfect, that's fine because it's an audition. You have a paper in your hand, you know? Because when you try to be perfect and you do sort of this level thing of like, I've just done this perfectly, you've not shown them anything other than, you color inside the lines.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to quote you here. I found this quote online. You say, I try to teach my students to get out of their heads and into their instincts back to that spark that started them out in the first place.
Yeah, it's really true. Because little kids, if you say to a little kid, be a leopard, be a lion, be a rhinoceros, be a T-Rex. A kid doesn't have to go like,
what's my motivation?
I don't know if I can be the T-Rex. Because you get up here, we've all been in school a long time and, we all go to school where it says like, I take the SATs and all that stuff and I'm going to do my work and I'm going to be careful with my work. And, it doesn't work so well when you try to do that with your acting. You got to just go like, all right, what do you come up with? What do you come up with just like in the spur of the moment? Do you have a feeling for it? And if you don't, it's probably because you just had it sort of bred out of you, and you got to get back to that and go like, well, what do I feel like automatically about this? What is like me? Is there anything about this character that's like me? And you go, okay, that is. And then you don't try to homogenize it over and over again. That's really the problem. People just kind of get to the place they go like, I'm afraid they want me to be this. And you go like, what do you want to be? Just you try to be it. Now it's true. Nobody's going to probably want to see you reinvent Laurie in Oklahoma necessarily, not completely, although it's being reinvented right now on Broadway or off Broadway. But the key really is to get back to the idea of sort of getting out of your ego and wondering what people think of you. And it's really, really hard to stay on your side of the table and not try to sit with the people watching you at the same time and try to figure out if you're doing well with them, because that's where it all goes wrong, is when you're feeling like you're kind of split, and, it's two, you've got half your mind over there going, is this going over well? Which is why I always say, do not look at anyone in that room. I don't care if they've got the biggest smiles in the world. You're going to turn it into something else because we're all crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to turn it like, he was smiling at me, but I think he was stifling a yawn. It's just stupid crap like that you think in your head. That honestly, it's just better if you just go, I am living inside my sort of very safe glass bubble. And I'm going to do all of my stuff in here. And I'm going to do my lines for everybody. Now, this is not the way you do a show, but it is the way you do an audition, because it's not safe to just sort of like, hey, everybody, I'm just hanging out with you. And what are you thinking? Very rarely do you feel like there's a room that feels safe to do that. And I really mean that. You just go, because we're all paranoid and crazy, we're just crazy. And so you see something and you go, oh my God, they hate me. Oh my God, they hate me. Or even worse, oh my God, they love me. That's the bad one. And you go like, yeah, nailed it. Don't hear another word,
Yeah. So do you teach your students to approach scripts, I guess, in their own way? Or do you give them sort of guidance based on how you feel it should go? Or do you help them to kind of discover their own thing?
I totally I totally give them guidance on how I think it should go, especially with comedy. I go, y'all, you got to serve the hors d'oeuvres. Those are your jokes. You've got to serve them. You can't like put the tray out and stick your fingers in the deviled eggs. No, it's true. Because there are people who just get sloppy with comedy, and comedy, for the most part, can't be sloppy. Normally, if you're going in for like a play or I mean, if you're going in for improv, it's a different thing. But if you're going in for a play or you're going in for a musical, especially with a musical, because you have so much less dialogue to deal with, so you have to sort of be precise about the choices that you make. But I will say sometimes I go, "Hey, y'all, that's the joke. That right there, that was the joke.
You missed it.
That was the joke." And I imagine they're going to want you to recognize that that's the joke, because then they'll think you're funny.
And then you'll get the joke.
And they'll think you're funny if you at least recognize it,
Right.
Because it is all, I mean, I think that's the reason why I did so many David Ives plays, because he is all musical. His plays are all about music and timing. And well, my first show with him was all on the timing, and it's absolutely true. It was all about timing because that's how he worked. So really all comedy is timing, and sometimes people just need a little, be taken by the hand a little bit and say like, no, I mean like this. They go like, like this.
Are there ever people that come in and you're like, I just don't think you're ever going to get this?
I will never tell them that. And they always get better. Because sometimes they just don't see it. They went, oh my gosh, yes, of course. And, sometimes someone needs license to go ahead and do that. I go, you can be more bold. Go ahead and be more bold. Like well, sometimes it helps if you've seen a show already and they're doing like replacements. Because then you really do know. You're not flying blind on that. You go like, listen, this show, you need to be, this is very big, stylistically very big. So you've got to pump up the volume a little bit.
Yeah. I guess, is that something that you focus on too, is filling shoes versus originating roles? Like there's a difference in how you approach the character.
If a show's already running, for the most part, it's probably best not to try to reinvent anything. If you kind of know the template that's working, you go like, can I fit into that template? And if you have any brains, you try to do that. I mean, unless you get some idea that someone says, you know what, they're really looking for something completely different. But you usually find that out from a manager or an agent or something. You don't just sort of like go, you know what, I really think you should rewrite some of these lines. You're not going to get anywhere with Hamilton. You know what I mean? You're like, hey, I really think that this would be better if you did this. Okay, see ya. But I've done both. I mean, I've originated stuff, which is a blast. And I've replaced, which is also fun, but a different thing. It's a different thing. And it's smartest, honestly, if you park your ego by the door on a replacement, because you're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah. Walk me through a standard day in the life of Nancy Opel.
Oh my gosh, I don't have any standard days. I really don't. They're not standard. I mean, I might do, well, it depends on the season. Because if it's a busy season, I could be coaching a lot during a week, And a lot for me, if I'm doing a show, would be like 7 or 8 coachings in a week, which doesn't sound like that much. But if you're doing a show at night and you've got that Wednesday matinee a lot of times, it's plenty, Also depends on how hard of a sing it is for me. Like Urinetown is a different sing than, some things like, well, I've been a Beautiful before, and that's a non-singing role. So you don't have to really worry about that. You just have to go, oy vey, Carol, don't be a writer.
I guess that's, it's a conservation of energy, more or less. Yeah,
absolutely. So, I do some of that. I don't really audition that much anymore, But once again, that's because, I'm still around. And they go, is that Nancy Opel still alive?
Let's throw her this way.
Let's call her and see if she's interested in this. I mean, I do on occasion, still audition for stuff. I have auditioned for things recently. And I don't mind it. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I've gotten better at it. Honestly, kind of better at it because I've sort of dissected it for other people. So then it becomes a little more clear for me how I need to do it, because it was very important to learn that thing about, you know what? Try as hard as you can. Don't give yourself an out. A lot of people do. Because if you try as hard as you can and you still don't get cast, you have to face the inevitable question, am I any good?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the question that a lot of people do not want to ask themselves. They just don't want to ask themselves. And it's because it's more existential than, am I right for this part?
It's your whole career in some cases.
It's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's everything. So I will say to people, do not get stuck in the trap of walking out of an audition and saying, oh, but I was tired. I was hungover. I was sick. I didn't have time to work on it. I was blah, 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 blah. You can think of a million reasons why, you didn't do what you feel like you could do. The way you want to walk out of an audition is, I did the very best I could do today, whatever that is. Whatever it is, you know what? I nailed it the best I could nail it today. And then you can walk out and feel good about yourself. And whether you get it or not, you go like, that's up to you guys. If you want to use me, awesome. And if you don't, I still feel good about myself. And I don't walk out going like, I wish I really would have. But that's kind of the coward's way out and kind of an easy way out. Because you can go like, oh yeah, well, I was tired, or I felt sad, or or it was raining and, and I feel like I was getting a sore throat.
You're going to have to do shows feeling all of that.
All of those things. All of those things.
If you get cast, yes.
All of those things. And I think that disappointing yourself in that way is sort of less terrifying than the existential thing of like, wow, maybe I just freaking suck. Because people do get there. They get to the place where they go like, whoa, I really did do the best I could and I still didn't get it. And you have to be okay with that. That's the part where you're a grown-up. Mm-hmm. When you go like, I nailed it, didn't get it, but that was a really good audition. I've had lots of them like that.
Well, the whole business is rejection.
And I've had some that were like, oh God, was I bad? Didn't try to be, thought I was doing everything I could, but man alive, I've had some that were real howlers.
Wow. So you live in Midtown here.
I do, right here.
We're in your living room right now recording this wonderfully. And you live here with your daughter, doesn't live here anymore.
No, she's flown the nest, my friend. So it's me and the poodle and the cat.
The poodle, both very cute. And I was petting the cat a second ago.
I know. But he gets nosy and bothers you while you work.
Pete. And then what else do you do? You're a wonderful cook. I think last time I was here, you made me a pheasant. Was it a cooked
No.
pheasant?
No, pheasant. I don't do pheasant. I do duck.
Was it?
Duck is my thing.
Tiny little duck?
Listen, ducks are great.
It was wonderful, whatever it was.
Duck is a great... Duck, I don't know why I'm giving dating advice to anyone. However, to some of your listeners, listen, learn how to roast a duck. I'm telling you what a great date meal. And it's so easy to make. And people think you're like a genius. Seriously.
Well, I literally wrote great cook here in my notes.
Because of my genius duck.
Right.
Which is really easy to make.
Okay. Well, now you spoiled it for me.
Well.
Movie magic. Hey, there's the cat.
Yeah. Hi, baby.
You're also fluent in Mandarin, right?
I'm not fluent.
No?
No. My daughter is. I'm not fluent.
Cat, stop playing with the screwdriver.
Cat. No, I'm not fluent, but I do study. I plod along. I try real hard. I plod along at it. I actually, at some point, if someone lets me retire, I will go back to China and sit down and study for a while. I went a couple of years ago and studied for a month, which I thought was amazing, and I would love to go back, for an extended period of time, because at this point, it's so hard when you're sitting in your living room trying to learn a foreign language. I have a teacher who comes to my house, and we practice, and I can kind of read and write. I could write, "Please help me." Please help me. I'm locked in a jail or something like that.
Where's the bathroom?
I could do. I can do that, and I could write it down. But I probably couldn't have existential or political discussions with anyone. And there are things that just kind of get to you with Mandarin. But Mandarin is a fascinatingly loosey-goosey kind of a language. It really is.
I know nothing about it.
Well, it really is. It's kind of a little bit on the loose side. At least kind of grammar-wise, it is kind of loose because there really aren't any tenses.
Oh, interesting.
In Chinese. It's fascinating because I'll tell you what, I think that all cultures really are kind of based on the language that they speak in terms of how they see the world. It's not just oh, well, I speak French, so I go around speaking French. It's something different than that. It's really about the structure of the language, and I think that and the fact that Chinese doesn't really have tenses makes it fascinating in terms of how they view time.
Oh. Now you've got my mind all wandering.
Oh, it should wander. It should wander. Read a little bit about time and the Chinese language. It's fascinating. Because for one thing, they've been speaking Chinese for 5,000 years.
Right.
The same language. And it's kind of interesting when you think about a culture that does not, they denote time, but it's not the way we do it. It's not the way a Western culture thinks about time or writes time or, uses that in their grammar. It's completely different.
Fascinating.
Which really makes for a different mindset.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me put it this way. Chinese play the long game.
Okay. Very good. And on that note, my next bullet point. Also, you're a photographer. You produce some of the most beautiful pictures I see online.
Oh, thanks.
How did you get into photography?
I bought a camera to take my own headshots.
Really?
Not even kidding. Not kidding. It was I don't even know. Maybe 2006 or something. I said, these people are buying these digital cameras. Well, I bet you I could do this. If you didn't have to pay to have them developed, you're not buying film and you're not having them developed. You go I could make a million really bad pictures, but if I make one good one, I've paid for my headshot.
Mm-hmm.
So I got myself a little kit and I went, okay, this is actually better than I thought it was going to be. This is really fun. And I got myself a little remote control. Ta-ding, 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 ta-ding. So that cute.
Have you been cast from your own headshot?
Sure.
Wow, that's great.
A lot.
Yeah.
I think until the most recent one, I have a picture that someone took of me. And he did a great job. Michael Kushner he just called me up and said, "Hey, Nancy, I want to take your pictures." And I went, "Great." And so he took a really, really cute picture of me that I'm now going to use.
Nancy, you still alive? I'd like to take your picture.
Yeah, are you still alive? If you are,
call me back.
Call me back. But he took several great pictures of me, but there's one that I really, really like. It sort of looks like one of those Carol Burnett on a stool kind of a pictures, you know what I mean?
Right.
You just kind of look cute and sort of quirky, but relatively attractive, that kind of picture. So I like it. And so I'm going to use that. But the past, I don't know, 10 years, 11 years, I've just taken my own picture.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then we're nearing the end of this episode here. I want you to give the big announcement of what you're working on, what you're about to go into next.
Oh, Alan. I have been gunning for this for several years. Gunning meaning, calling my manager and going, could you get me an appointment for that show? And I had not been seen for these many years that it's been running on Broadway. Any ideas? Well, let me tell you. I am going to be playing Madame Morrible in Wicked.
Congratulations.
Thank you. This is their 15th year. They're celebrating their 15th year, and this is my 15th Broadway show.
How kismet is that?
Right? I agree with you. It really is. And so I'm really excited about it. I think it's the company is lovely, and the costumes are lovely, and filled to the brim theaters are lovely. It's all good.
A steady paycheck.
A steady paycheck
is lovely.
Goes without saying. It's very lovely.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then we've got a couple standard closing questions here. Very basic stuff. What motivates you?
I think I like having someplace to go. Do you know? I like to see people, and I like show people, because they really are like no people, They really are. They're really great people. I feel like my daughter was kind of ruined by show people, because she goes, everybody else is kind of boring. It's really true,
I would agree.
Because, we tend to meet people who, I mean, on a certain level have a charisma. I don't care who you're talking to, somebody who's a dancer or a singer or an actor or just an amazing anything. They're interesting people, and they tend to be pretty bright, and they tend to be pretty hooked into what's going on in the world, and I love all of that stuff. So I like having a place to go where I get to hang out with people like that,
Mm-hmm.
And I also find, for the most part, that you find a lot of tolerance, kindness, compassion, encouragement to sort of, do your thing. And I think all those things are great. And I wish that, it sort of happened in more of the rest of the world too.
Yeah. What advice would you give to your younger self and younger people listening now, starting out down a similar path?
Don't drop the threads of connection to people. Don't drop the threads. Keep them going. And don't be afraid of that. There is nothing wrong or weird or creepy or anything about reaching out to someone. And if they don't want to be reached out to, you'll know that pretty quickly. But for the most part, people do want that. So don't drop the thread. And also don't drop the thread for yourself. Meaning, don't get scared. Just don't get scared. Because someone will say, oh, well, someone said in right here in my home a couple of days ago, she said, oh, Nancy, I just get so lazy. I said, you're not lazy. You're scared. You're scared. And you can't be.
Sounds like therapy.
It's all therapy. Do you know how many times people cry here?
How many?
For almost, I would say a few times a week somebody cries. I'm not the same person, but you know what I mean.
The same person comes in.
And the person is me.
Yeah.
No, I mean, a lot of people do. And it's really about, if you're kind of doing really good work, a lot of times it's kind of deep work. And a lot of times, some little thing just kind of gets opened up, and you go whoa, I wasn't expecting that. Do you know?
Mm-hmm. You have to feel safe.
Well, for a little while I was doing a little weekly thing, and it was absolutely for free, no pay, no anything. It was just me and some kids at Memphis all getting together, and I'd go you know what? I know you guys are scared sometimes of long things of lines. to read. And I said, let's do some Shakespeare sonnets. Let's do some Shakespeare stuff. Let's do some Shakespeare monologues.
Wow.
You know? Because I said, if you feel like you got that, you got all the rest of this. You know, you got all the rest of this, you know. Sequins, sure, I'll sew them on. I mean, you can do any you can do any of that stuff.
Out damn spot.
Yeah, I mean, you can do any of that stuff. So a lot of, you know, during that time, I had such an interesting and sort of eye-opening situation with them. And I think they did too, you know, that they would go like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I wasn't expecting to like get there. I mean, I wasn't trying to, and it just sort of happened, you know? And so that kind of stuff I really, really love. I love to try to make someone feel like they can do it. That to me is a goal in my life, is to make people feel like, you know what, I can do this. You know, I can do this. And like the young lady I was talking to the other day, I just said, you absolutely cannot stop. Just don't stop, you know? And I know that it's frustrating sometimes, because you go like, I feel like I'm just sort of just like pressing my nose at the glass, you know, and trying to like see in. And you go, but you have to. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. And if you get the foot in the door, then you get the foot in the door. But giving up it's almost never about laziness. It's almost always about being scared, you know, and you just have to, like, she'd given me so many examples of people who had reached out to her, you know, said, here, you know, maybe you could blah, 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 blah. Maybe you could do that. Send me a this, send me a that. I go, have you done this? Do you know? And they're like, no, because whatever. I said, no, because. No, you just do it. You know, and because basically how to do it right is to just do it simple. And you just go like, you get up and you go, just don't think about that. Don't think about that thing. Because sometimes there are some performers who get ahead and do rather well for themselves, and they're kind of not that smart. And in a way, that was a great thing, because they just go like, I go. You know, I'm going to get up and go. And they're not, so they don't sort of talk themselves out of things. They just kind of like go full steam ahead, which sometimes is not a bad thing. And it's that sometimes you just have to don't stop for anything.
Yep. If you could only see one show for the rest of your life, but you can see it as many times as you want.
Oh, man.
Which show would you see?
Oh, man. Oh.
The look of anguish on your face.
No, there is a real look of anguish, because there's so many shows that have things about them that you go, it's the visual of that. That is amazing. Whatever it might be, you know, like an amazing visual thing that you see and you go like, that is spectacular. And sometimes it's something else, you know. To be perfectly honest with you, when I went to see Hamilton, I thought, oh yeah, come on, prove it to me. Really? Really? Is it going to be that? Yeah, it is that good.
Yep.
Yeah, you know.
The same way.
You know, I was just like, oh, sure. Oh my God. Oh, I cannot even believe I'm watching this. To me, it was just like the door opened and suddenly we were driving 175 miles an hour in a really hot car. Do you know? I mean, that's what it felt like. It felt like the whole thing was just, and I was pasted against the wall until it was over, you know? So could I watch that over and over again? I probably could. I could be in Urinetown over and over and over again for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that was a great show.
Because that's how much I loved it. I loved doing it. I thought it was an amazing show. And I think it's really, 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 really pertinent, shall we say, as we melt, as the world melts around us.
Well, very good.
Yeah.
So online, people can reach you via nancyopel.com.
Yes. Oh, I better do something about that.
Yeah.
I better revamp that shiz.
How else can they find you? At Twitter, right? Are you an active?
I'm kinda. I'm a phlegmatic Twitterer.
At Nancy Opel.
Yeah, I'm slightly better. I'm slightly better on Instagram. I think I'm Nancy Opel on Instagram. I
I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Well, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
It was really fun.
Yeah, this was great. Of course, this has been the Theater Podcast. You can connect with me at theater_podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Even send some feedback through feedback@thetheaterpodcast.com. And of course, a big thank you to Jukebox the Ghost for the music that you hear probably playing under me right now. Thank you so much.
Take a deep breath, make the world a little colorful.